Good evening, everyone. Good evening. All right. I'd like to take a moment of silence. And I'd like us to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm sorry. All right. Okay, I'd like to take roll call. Okay. In attendance with me from the Parks Rec Committee are Commissioner Ben Olszewski and Commissioner Nicholas Skoll. I'm Anthony Benvenuti. To my left is Township Manager Patrick Stasio and my friend Alex. I'm sorry. Katie? Where's Katie? Hi, Katie. Sorry.
Katie Cole.
I have an issue with my glasses. Okay, so we have a presentation, if I'm not mistaken, Woodlawn Park Development Meeting, correct?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Katie Kohler. I am the Director of Parks and Recreation for Upper Moreland Township. I just want to give you a little bit of background information on the Woodlawn Park Master Plan that will be presented tonight. Early in 2022, Upper Moreland Township formed a dedicated steering committee that was appointed by the President of the Board of Commissioners. This steering committee included neighbors of the park, Parks and Rec Advisory Council members, and representatives from other various community groups and organizations. This team helped guide every step of the process. This process lasted for about a year. We began by requesting proposals from landscape architectural firms and received several strong submissions. Before deciding, after careful consideration, the steering committee recommended actually that the Board of Commissioners approve the selection of Simone Collins as our landscape architect engineer. Throughout the planning process, we made public engagement a priority. We hosted 4 public meetings. Some of you may have been there. Hopefully, you were involved. These were in hopes to gather feedback. We also conducted some focus group interviews. We met directly with adjacent neighbors to understand their perspectives and visions for the park. So there was a lot of careful consideration going into this. We also hosted an online survey. We reached out to various civic organizations and youth groups in the community. There were several conceptual plans developed and shared publicly for comment, leading the steering committee to narrow it down to 3 finalists. The final plan was then developed from those concept plans after all of the public comments, and after it was decided upon, was made available for 30 days for public view and a comment period. This was to ensure transparency throughout the entire process. So finally, in December of 2022, Upper Moreland Township officially adopted the final concept plan. We're proud to share that we've secured more than $1.5 million in grant funding to support this effort for Woodlawn Park. And the township is now moving forward with the next phase, taking all comments, costs, and engineering issues into careful consideration. Tonight's presentation has been coordinated not to readdress the items that we already addressed through that year-long process, but to reintroduce to you this exciting project and to answer any questions you may have about the project's future timeline. This information will also be available on our website after tonight's presentation for anybody interested in viewing the concept plan. It's my pleasure to introduce Sarah Leeper from Simone Collins, who will walk us through this vision for Woodlawn Park.
Thanks, Katie. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. So as Katie said, you know, we finalized the master plan, which we went through all those stages on the bottom in orange. And then the township did great work securing funding, as Katie pointed out. And now we're at the point where we're going into design and engineering. We're working with the township engineer, Gilmore Associates. So they're really focusing on the hard engineering of the project, where we're kind of leading the schematic design. So we're kind of taking that master plan concept and really turning it into construction documents with the assistance of Gilmore engineers. And then the next phase will be construction. So that's all happening in 2025 is the design and engineering. Gilmore's going to have to apply for a permit plan for an NPDES permit. So that is a time sensitive. It takes about 6 months to get through the review period on that. So we're looking at construction starting in spring of 2026, and then with the completion of construction in fall of 2026. And below just kind of gives you a refresher on all the public process that kind of led to the development of this plan. So the program elements that was originally kind of envisioned as phase 1 of improvements, but at this point we're really kind of saying, this is the primary phase of improvements. There might be additional improvements that happen moving forward, but this will be the bulk of improvements taking place in this construction phase. But we are including accessible walking trails throughout the whole park. There'll be a park office and restrooms, which is paired with an open air pavilion, playground area, some small sitting areas, one kind of near the multipurpose seat, one kind of near what we're calling a central plaza, and then also what we're calling the National Survey Marker as well. And then open lawn areas for play. We have the multi-use courts, a 70-foot baseball field. We're looking to preserve as many of the trees on the existing slope along Woodlawn, planting new trees as well, and then looking at areas where we might want to do meadow planting to minimize some of the mowing, mostly on steep slopes. And then also looking at lighting and cameras, and then also parking. So how the plan's kind of evolved since the last time you saw it, one of the largest changes would be working with Gilmore to really balance what we call the cut and fill. So as we start to grade the site, we want to make level areas for, the parking, the baseball, the playground, the courts as well. But to do that, we need to kind of move dirt around. We don't want to take dirt off site. We want to keep everything on site to help minimize cost. So the approach to kind of do that is we're actually creating a slope here where this is kind of the neighboring project. Just to quick orient everyone, this is Division Ave at the top and Woodlawn at the bottom. So the school formerly kind of sat right here on the top of the slope. But we're kind of creating a slope here that would come down from the adjacent neighboring properties and kind of lowering this area so that we can raise up this area, right? So we're kind of leveling everything off, and then as we kind of raise up, we're actually kind of adding to this slope a little bit in here. And then coming up from Woodlawn, this would be an accessible path. So this whole area kind of lowers down a little bit so that we can get that accessible path all the way up into the central part of the park. In terms of, we'll just kind of talk about the big elements on this plan, and then I can zoom into some areas. But again, what you're seeing, we have existing sidewalks on Division and on Woodland that we're maintaining, and we're tying into those existing sidewalks. We're not touching the curb lines in this project. We're bringing in the dark purple, these are asphalt walkways that are about 8 feet in width is what we're targeting for this park. So kind of if you were to do one big loop tying in the Division Ave walkway and kind of come all the way back around, that's just under a half a mile, about 0.4 miles, just to give you an idea. We've kind of started to develop, definitely including kind of parking on site. We're showing about 38 spaces of parking on site, and then also a drop-off area with a little plaza, benches here for people waiting to be picked up or dropped off. And then we kind of have this central plaza area. This would have the main pavilion. The open air area is here, and then we would have an enclosed area that would include restrooms, and we'll have a blow-up of that we'll look at. We have kind of what we call the central plaza, where we have a flag that's kind of on access with this central access here, as well as kind of the parking driveway coming in, and then with home plate. So it kind of forms a tri-access there. The field does sit a little higher than that plaza, so you'll see when we kind of look at sections how this is seat walls that kind of bring you up to the baseball, softball level. This is kind of the playground area, and we'll look at that a little bit closer. The basketball courts are 2 basketball courts with a modified deck hockey for informal deck hockey play. There will be a fence line between just the parking lot side and the court side. The rest would be kind of open to the park. And this is that little plaza that associates with the courts as well. And then we have what we're calling kind of a sports backboard, so like a tennis practice, and it would be two-sided, so you could play from the courts or you could play from the open lawn if you're throwing a lacrosse ball, that type of thing. This is the National Geotech Survey. So this is where we surveyed where the marker is specifically, so that lands in the center of the plaza. That would have a small seating area. And then again, there'll be kind of rain garden areas that tie into the stormwater system. Gilmer started to engineer that stormwater system so you can see the piping and the inlets. It would all ultimately tie into existing inlets along Woodlawn Ave. So quick zooming in on certain areas. So this is kind of that central plaza area, so you can see much clearer kind of that drop-off area. So this would be a flush curb here with some bollards. Seating, everything where we're showing kind of this olive green hatch is intended to be planting that will get developed as we move further. But the idea here is really to create a separation that will be pretty thick planting between the play area and the parking area. And then again, having kind of planting that houses the building and kind of sets it in a landscape. So this is, again, that open air portion of the building. The restrooms face the parking lot. There would be a small park office and concession window that kind of interact with each other to open up into the pavilion, and then storage garage for lawnmowers and maintenance equipment for the park. Also, drinking fountains would be housed on the exterior portion of the building as well. Looking at the playground area, this is something that, as we move forward, this design will get refined with specific equipment, but the shape is kind of set in terms of having kind of a smaller walkway that brings you around the edge. So you have great access throughout the whole play area. 2 sitting areas, one here and one here. And then the idea with equipment is most of the tot lot would be closest to the larger pavilion. Older kids, kind of 5 to 12, equipment centered here. A gaga pit being relocated that exists in the park, and then swings as well that kind of overlook the slope. So this is, from this point, you can kind of see everything grades down to a low point right off here that collects stormwater. And then this also is that natural grade of what we're calling the sledding hill here as well. We do have a smaller pavilion that would kind of serve as, small parties or picnic gatherings closer to the playground itself. And then looking at a central lawn here with some topography for informal play for kids, and then a seat wall adjoining that kind of central lawn as well. We are looking at areas of grills for both pavilions that would be properly offset from the pavilion overhangs. Looking at the field area, so this is a 70-foot base path that can also be modified for 60-foot. So this is kind of a field, the 70-foot size field is something that's kind of in need in the township. Currently, we're looking at doing a clay infield, so it works for both baseball and softball with a portable mound to accommodate baseball, and then a natural turf outfield. We're also going to be considering what we call an ad alternate when we go out to bid, where we'd look at synthetic turf for the infield. And that just allows for easier maintenance of the field facility. It does get really hot up here and dry with the winds being on the high point. So that's one of the considerations with doing the turf. Obviously defined areas for spectators and then also the team benches. And then this kind of starts to show you those seat walls and kind of the steps that would come down to that central plaza. So this starts to become a little gathering area that can function whether or not there's a game going on. So quick kind of looking through sections. So up here, this section's going kind of from the neighboring property all the way down through the parking lot. So you can kind of see this is the existing grade of the neighboring yards with the fences that kind of border the park. So you can start to see how we're cutting in this area. The field does raise up a little bit so that we can have proper drainage within the field. And then these are those seat walls that kind of bring you down to the central plaza area and then out to the parking area. And this is just kind of a blow up of those seat walls and kind of the fencing area. We are considering both fencing and netting for the baseball area. So that will be probably a little taller than what you're seeing here on the section. And then 2 other sections. The top one is going right down what we call the central spine, all the way down to Woodlawn Ave here. So you can see you kind of have the basketball court plateau here, and then you have your main pavilion, open air structure with restrooms, cutting through the playground and seeing that secondary pavilions, and then how that kind of slopes down to the lower path. So that's this pathway right here, and then continues the existing slope with those trees that we're preserving down to Woodlawn Ave. And then this section's going more from the parking lot over to, would this be Forest Ave neighbors' yards? So again, kind of looking at the parking lot, you're seeing those mounds, the smaller pavilion. This would be kind of the swing structure. And then again, that slope. So this is kind of maybe the bottom of the sledding hill, that low point, and then our paths. And here you can see with the grading of that path to make it accessible that we're actually, again, lowering everything kind of below the neighboring properties. So these are just two examples of kind of what we're looking at in terms of structures for the park. This is pretty accurate in terms of the size of the building that we're kind of looking at. In the vernacular we're targeting for that building. Really looking to get clear stories to get kind of natural light into those restrooms and park offices during the day. And then probably on a slightly smaller scale, this is kind of the idea of that plaza arbor for up at the northern end sitting area at the survey marker. So in terms of a project timeline, again, we're currently, we've worked through all what we call the schematic design. So this was a schematic design plan. From this plan, Gilmore can run with the hard engineering and do all their stormwater calculations to meet both the township and the state federal requirements for permitting. So looking to get that kind of submitted initially in early summer, and then working through any permit comments throughout the summer. But then in tandem with kind of doing the permitting, we can complete the bid documents so that we would be ready for a late fall bid. So this would all be publicly bid. And then a contractor would be awarded a contract looking at winter, early spring 2026 for that 2026 construction season, seeing completed improvements in the fall of 2026. So with that, I will, I guess, turn over to you first for any questions. We can go back to, I have an overall plan here.
I don't have any questions. Do you guys have any questions?
I'm kind of overstimulated.
Too much for you, yeah?
I've forgotten how complex it is. Let's turn over to the public. I'm sure they have lots of questions.
Great.
Could you guys speak a little louder? I missed a lot of yours into the mic, maybe. Can't hear you.
Sure.
Apologies.
Let's open it to the public.
If anyone has a question, we ask you to please step up to the microphone and state your name and address, and we'll get your question answered.
Pat? Vic? Sandra Goldman, former commissioner and former commissioner for Parks and Rec, no less. Right, Pat? So I have some questions because I live on Forest Avenue and I know a lot of these people do. So the fencing, I'm just wondering, how high are we talking about the fencing behind the properties, and how far does that outfield go from the property lines?
Sure. So just to clarify, the question was on the height of fencing and then outfield line to property lines. So just to kind of quick, in terms of, the outfield would end here. You probably have close to another 70 feet before you get to the edge of the property line. We definitely have a minimum of 50 feet between any walkway and that outfield, so it's pretty good distance there. In terms of the fencing of the outfield, that would be a 4-foot fence. In terms of what we're providing for park fencing, we're only replacing park fencing that is on the park property. So that would be fencing down along this edge. Right now, we're looking at like a 4 to 5 foot tall fence that's kind of in keeping with the chain link fence that is there, but coming in with something that's a little nicer than chain link. And then same along Division Ave, replacing fencing there that would be kind of set off of the sidewalk a little bit, so it's not right up on the sidewalk. And again, that would be like 4 to 5 feet tall. So kind of keeping everything very open views.
So I see the grading around the park here. How will that affect, or could it affect, the water runoff to our properties?
So there shouldn't be any runoff to the properties. If anything, there should be an improvement in stormwater management on site since it will be a modern stormwater design. But you can see that we kind of have, these are the piping here. So we're collecting, this is our high point. We have swales that are kind of bringing water to this point. Along those swales, we do have inlets that would be collecting water. So this is kind of a main collection point here as well as this one here. So again, we kind of have a swale running along the edge of the properties here. And then everything that kind of comes down in this area is picked up at this low point. We have also a complementary drain here that would pick up from there and bring you down. Again, picking up all the water within the parking lots with inlets as well. So, we're putting in, exponential amount of inlets versus what's there today.
It looks like that. Pat, this is for you. How many games do you expect to be played at this field during the year?
Well, first, let me just say that this is a 70-foot field, not a 90-foot baseball field. So the high school and JV play there now, and Little League, the older teams play there. This will be more for, I want to say 70-foot is 12, 13-year-old. So the fence is appropriate distance for 12, 13. You're certainly not going to see home runs hit as far with this field as we did with other fields. The games are hard to tell year to year. The field has been permitted, and Kate might be able to speak more on this year, every day for either practice or games. It either goes to the high school or the Little League. I doubt it'll go to the high school. It won't go to high school baseball anymore, but there's potential for high school softball to play here. So every day that field is permitted to Upper Moreland Township teams only. So every day, even though they don't play there every day, they have a permit for it. I think early in the year they practice there almost every day or most days. As they get into the game season, the field is used less and less. Now, it may have changed this year. She's nodding her head no. So I think you're going to see the same types of use that you've seen in the past be used here. I think in the beginning it's going to be exciting and new, so they might want to play a few more games there. But again, we're talking younger folks that have used it in the past. No non-resident teams get a permit for any field in Upper Moreland. So, right, so, Roslyn won't be playing here. The only way they would play here is if Upper Moreland is playing a home game against an away team, which they currently do at that field.
Mm-hmm. And could you show us, where is the entrance from Forest Avenue compared to this particular rendition? Like, we have a public entrance on Forest Avenue. Where is?
Oh, that's this right here. So that's.
Is it the same place?
Yes, it's the same place.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would just be a walkway entrance in.
I don't want to take anybody else's time, but I have a couple more questions. Okay. So I'm concerned about park hours and security. Like, that's very concerning to us.
Yeah, I mean, it is, I'll maybe default to Katie on that.
Yeah, I'll take this one. So, of course, you're going to have the new period, right, where everybody wants to come see the new park. And I think we should be proud of that as an Upper Moreland community. But park hours this field is not lit, so we will not be using this field as much as we would Mason's Mill. That's open till 10 or 11. This would primarily be daytime use only.
So I have a question about the multi-use area. So what I heard is that there's going to be pickleball there. I don't play pickleball, but I've heard it's really loud. So
There will be no designated pickleball courts there.
I'm not opposed to it. I'm just saying, I'm wondering what kind of sound. I realize there's some trees there, but still, sounds carry in our neighborhood a lot. We can hear the ambulances and everything else every time they're sounding. What will the park hours be?
So that'll be determined, but typical park hours are dawn till dusk. We do plan down the road to have a designated maintenance worker there and possibly a park attendant for the weekend. But again, the hours are going to be cut back, not like Mason's Mill where it's open because the usage areas are lighted.
And given all these buildings and pavilions, they're bait for people who want to do wrong too. In the evening, we have kids hanging out there. It's not safe. I mean, for young women, in my opinion, when they're out there, with a bunch of kids, they may or may not know. So what are the, can the police get back there, for instance, on these 8-foot wide trails? Are they able to get back there with their cars?
So there's an access point, Sarah, please confirm, from Woodlawn. That would be an access point for emergency vehicles.
Also at this point too. So everything was designed so that all the high-use areas are very much patrollable from the parking lot itself. So from here, you have a clear view into the restrooms, which would have automatic locks so that they close and open at a specific time. You have a clear view into the pavilion. And then also from here, we'll design the planting so you have a clear view into these pavilions. We can have motion detectors motion sensors on the pavilion so that lights come on, so it's not a desirable place to hang out.
Right.
Some of the biggest issues we've had in this park is kind of having the playground down in that low area.
Right.
So we're really kind of, again, locating that playground right up against the parking lot where it's very surveyable for your police force. We'll have gates at the driveway entrance, so that's something that, you have the option to close it off if it becomes a problem with people parking in there, but then also, the cops can easily open the gates and get in and kind of do their patrols.
Let me just see if I had anything else here. Member games, security. I think security is really key, and being able to monitor that park. I'm concerned about it, and destruction. Right.
We have in the plan the state-of-the-art camera system, security lighting and all.
I just want to add to the comment, and thank you, Sandra. We had a couple questions about why are we moving earth and why are we moving playgrounds, specifically for that reason.
Yeah.
The difficulty has been seeing back to the playground, and if you're familiar with it, which I know you are, there's a little rise and it's hard to see. This opens the park up for direct line of sight. So whether the police are in the parking lot or on Division, they'll be able to look in and see if there's any unwanted behavior. And as Kate said, state-of-the-art cameras are going to assist us as well. So it's going to be a much more secure park than currently. Having said that, trouble can find anywhere.
And are there going to be any call buttons or anything like that as far as security?
Yeah, I don't think that was considered at this point.
No. It's something I think to consider in a park like this. I think it's very attractive. I really like it. And it's been a long time coming. I remember when that school was open, that's no longer there, and we bought the property. So very happy to see this take place. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kate.
Any other comments? And would anybody like to make at this point?
Hey Pat, Vicki Macmillan, 344 Forest Avenue. So I'm like right at the access point from Woodlawn. We're still waiting about what the fence means. We were told probably 2 years ago that we were gonna get a letter that told us if we owned the fence or if the township owned the fence, would the fence be moving? And that was from Matt. And then now hearing this, just like when we'll be notified of like that fence coming down and how far it, like who it actually impacts, I think probably is good to know.
I don't think there's any design to improve that area right now, other than possible fencing changes. So I'm going to ask Kate to get in touch with you. Kate, make sure you have the contact information, and we'll reach out directly.
So I did want to say too, I plan to meet with the adjacent neighbors directly. I will set a date, hopefully that fits your schedule, and come out to the park on site, invite you to walk and check out your individual property, and we can discuss options.
Okay, I'll email you tomorrow about the fence. I've emailed you before about it, so.
Yeah. And just to clarify on the fencing, so everything along this northern edge is definitely on the homeowner's side of the property line. Everything in this corner is also on the homeowner's side of the property line. Somewhere about this area, we need to field verify where it happens. The chain link fence picks up, and that, for the most part, is on the school property. There's kind of the last two lots where it's a little unclear whose property it's on, but I think the intent would be, if the property owner is willing, it would be to replace the whole chain link fence, if that clarifies your question a little bit.
I also just have plans stuff to cover it, so I don't want that to shrink either.
Sandy Kaufman, 326. So I am the pathway from Forest on the left-hand side. So another fencing question would just be, is that pathway fencing being replaced to then match the rest of the fencing that is happening?
That wasn't addressed in our initial plan. So what is it currently? Is it white
So it's
PVC?
a silver chain link,
Silver chain link.
about yay high. I remember it was mentioned at some point in the planning process as being part of it and like an official like welcome walkway. I just didn't know.
I can comment on that, sorry. That was a later phase for this project. I think it was phase 2. Right now, we're not doing a phase 2, but that area certainly needs improvement. And while it may not be part of this project, I think it's certainly something that Parks and Recreation can work with the neighbors on either side of that to find a solution to make that, improve that area.
Same thing like with the asphalt and everything, because it's all crumbling and pretty.
Yes.
Awesome. And then my other question is, I know we had mentioned like meeting and talking about like the trees and the plantings behind, would that be part of like that walkthrough and discussion?
Yes, of course.
I think that was all my questions for now. Thank you.
And just to comment, by design, we haven't showed any planning along the neighboring properties yet because we do want to get feedback in terms of specifically what people want to see kind of between their property and the park.
Caitlin Sharp, 344. So my question is about the fence, because my property is the end of that fence that I guess nobody knows who it belongs to. Will I still be able to have a gate?
So that will be part of our discussion, what we're going to do, how we're going to accommodate homeowners within the plan as well. So I'm not going to guarantee it, but if a gate is something that you wish, it's something we can definitely discuss.
But it's not guaranteed.
Not guaranteed, not everybody will want one. So we'll discuss that specifically with you.
All right, thank
Okay?
Diana Lineback, 18 Overlook. Just have a question. I believe the last plan had like some type of sprinklers, so that's out of the plan now?
That is not in this plan, current plan.
And then phase 2 had the community building. That was like, I know if we had enough money, maybe that would happen, but it seems that things were kind of moved that, you know, where the building would have been is now other things, so that's just completely off now?
This site will not house a community building.
Okay, thank you.
I would just like to say definitely a thank you from the full board for the people that we appointed to the committee and all the residents that came out in the design of this to all the meetings and stuff. The board really appreciates it. Just most of the people on that committee were from up there, which means a lot with their input. And I'd also say the board would like to thank, Pat was involved in the very beginning, and then Katie has taken everything over. So thank you to them, and special thanks to everybody that had their input in this from the board.
Just had one quick question. Lauren Hegard, 320 Woodlawn. So the pavilions, are they like going to be able to be rented by residents and non-residents, like Mason's Mill is?
Yes.
Yes.
And that is the plan. It's not definite yet. We don't have a rental plan set in place, but my thought is to mirror it from Mason's Mills.
And how many pavilions will there be?
So most likely only the one large one will be rentable. The other one will be first come, first serve, and kind of open to families who are there with their children using the playground.
Thank you.
I have a question. 318 Woodlawn. Is there definitely a fence on Woodlawn so it won't be accessible? Like, we don't have a fence there now.
Yeah. So we're not showing any fencing on Woodlawn. It's just the natural slope and then a mowed area between the sidewalk and where we're proposing kind of meadow along the slope. Division Ave, for the level area of the parks, we are creating fencing along there just to kind of create that containment that you currently have today that people are kind of used to.
So there's no hill?
No, there's a hill still.
Yeah.
So
So there is a hill.
yeah, this will all sit I mean, just guessing, looking at this right now, probably about 15 to 20 feet higher than Woodlawn. So very similar to, if not a little higher than what you have today.
Hi, Barb Tuck, 525 Inman Terrace. 3 questions. When we looked at this park before, there was a splash pad. Is that off the table or that's still in there? That's one question.
That is not in this
Great.
plan.
The second is in the pavilion area. Will there be water, like a sink or anything in that pavilion area with the grills or just the grills?
There's water fountains on the other side, but with the grills, we don't have water access.
No, there would be, I mean, inside for maintenance and staff, there's water access, but not to the public.
And then the last question is on Division. There was going to be that additional parking, like pull off on the side, because both sides, were we able to go forward with that, or now that's off the table?
That's not in this phase.
Perfect. That's it.
Norm Jensen, 308 Forest. I guess in addition to the Division Avenue, the parking Woodlawn on the other meeting I was at was actually going to be turned into one-way with like parking going that way. Is that part of this phase or no?
That is not part of this phase.
So all traffic is basically going to stay the same, the way it is now?
That's correct.
Okay.
And I would even clarify, I think in the final master plan, we kept Woodlawn as it is. So there's no recommendation to ever change the Woodlawn direction. There might still be traffic calming improvements on Division Ave in the future phases, but most likely not that pull-in parking along Division Ave.
Any plans to put solar on these buildings to power them?
Yeah, we'll look at that with, what we're doing for both of the pavilions is we're working through what's called Keystone purchasing. So we're gonna put out a RFP for design to different equitable firms and kind of give them what we kind of have as, a broad budget, not like a specific number, but, this is the scope of the buildings we're looking at. And then ask them to kind of give us the best design. So we'll give them the program, we'll give them these plans, and then they kind of come back with a proposal. So that's kind of a cost saving. So it's turnkey construction. It's a little bit of a cost saving for the township to kind of pursue the structures that way. But one of the things we can explore is, a solar option to see if that does kind of save cost. There is probably a little more upfront cost, but long run for buildings of this size, it would probably pay for itself quickly.
It just occurs to me that PICO wants some good, communication with the public, and it's great marketing, and they should be approached to provide us the solar for our park. I mean, they all want to be, the telecom companies want to be at the top of the hill. PICO's going to have a reason to want to do it, and they could use it as marketing for us and give us a free ride for our energy. They're named to do that. As part of it.
Yep, understood. No, you're fine. I was just taking it. I'm sorry.
Any EV parking?
Do you guys have a code for EV parking? Yeah, so, electrical vehicle parking was the question, if we planned that. It's currently not planned because it's not required by the zoning of the township. There's a lot of great portable EV stations that could easily be added. The infrastructure to put in an EV station is not a small degree for what we would think you would get used here. I mean, this is really meant to be a neighborhood park. Usually you see EV parking in regional parks where you want to pull people into that area, have them spend some time. That's really not what we're trying to do here at Woodlawn Park.
Okay. Just one more question. Just because I hear phases mentioned a lot, it seems like to me this is the whole plan. So if there is another phase, if you guys could be specific, like what that phase is about, what you would plan to be looking at.
Yeah, and I'll take a shot at this, and then maybe if Katie or Pat wants to join in. So in terms of your big park improvements, what you see here is kind of the ultimate phase. There aren't any other facilities in later phases that we would be adding to the park at this point. In terms of looking at Division Ave to see if there's kind of future advantages to traffic calming, so maybe doing what the master plan kind of looked at, those improved crosswalks, both along Woodlawn and Division, so kind of looking at those improvements. And then also looking at additional, right now we have kind of the bare minimum of seating along the pathways. Moving forward, the township might identify other areas where they want more benches along the pathways to accommodate users. And then also, like we talked about earlier, the Forest Ave kind of pedestrian connection. So did I miss?
No, I think when the plan was originally made, there was a phase to do the park improvements similar to this, and then phase 2 was that community building, and phase 3 was to change the structure of Division, make some changes how you enter from Forest. So those 3 phases really, some of the stuff went away and it all got combined into one. So any future phasing, I think, is probably the wrong term to use now. There might be some additions of some parking improvements or maybe a new piece of playground here or there. There is a possibility of looking at Division as a township perspective, not necessarily parks. Are there things that we can do there? Right now, there's no parking on the park side of Division, and I think the main reason for that was, 1, the school was there, and 2, baseballs might have been hit into that section. Perhaps that's something the township wants to look at in the future if we don't have enough parking at this location, which I think we will.
It's a snow emergency route too. It's snow,
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? I'm sorry.
203 Inman Terrace. My name's Corey Schmidt. My concern is the traffic. Division, the Gray Horse, it's a throughway. It's constant traffic, and they race up that street. I've almost gotten T-boned a couple of times coming out of Woodlawn. But my concern is the parking. I grant you 48 spots should be enough for the park. But with grant money, you're going to be inviting people from the Northeast to come up, just like they do over at Mason's Mill. I'm sure we'll find out and they'll come and visit. That's fine, But my thing is, if you live on Woodlawn, Division, Cruiston, wherever, parking's going to be an issue. And that's my concern.
This was talked about extensively through the planning process.
No, and I had this talk before.
Yeah, and I think the biggest concern was if we build a community building, we're going to see an influx of people.
Oh, very much so.
You may, this is just my own experience with parks. You may see increased visitation when it's new, the first year, first 2 years. After that, I think it will get back to a normal park in Upper Moreland, though one of our better ones.
I'm concerned about parking on both sides of the road because Division is a throughway pad. Mm-hmm. It really is.
Well, there's no parking on both sides of the road currently. There's no parking on Division at the park, on the park side currently.
Oh, yeah. But I'm saying across from there, though, on the opposite side, there's parking.
And they park there now when the ball field games are going on, and they're parking. I've gotten calls that they park in people's driveways.
My Bible church, which is right across the street, and I'm sure we'll see people parking there, which is, it's going to happen.
Well, I think it's something that we believe we plan for enough parking. I think it's something we need to monitor. And if you notice it and we don't notice it, please bring it to our attention.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
That's my concern. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Megan. I'm at 346 Forest. Just a consideration, an AED in the park?
We have AEDs at a couple of our parks right now, so.
Yeah, and that was identified in the master plan. There can be one located on a prominent facade of the building where it's very identifiable from kind of the sports fields.
Hello, my name is Dave Watson at 304 Forest. There is I can't really read that. It says interpretive sign in total. I'm not sure exactly what that is. My house is right over the lettering.
Yeah. So the idea was to kind of, and this is something that's still evolving. This is some of the aspects of design kind of evolved throughout the project. But looking at that National Geodetic Survey point, the idea was to kind of have this whole back walk kind of expand upon the history of that. Right now there's kind of one panel, but there's a lot more information out there that kind of explains the history. So the idea was, right now we're just showing schematically kind of 6 stopping points. So these would be smaller panels at kind of, reading level. They're not going to be high and in the sky by any means. So we're saying 6 total, that's what that means. So I think the arrows shifted, it really should be right here. But yeah, so that's the idea there. So as we kind of move forward, those will just be interpretive panels that will develop, and the final locations and numbers will get determined over the summer as we're finalizing construction documents.
I just have one more question. I know they were talking about like ballard lighting along the path for every evening. I wasn't sure if that was still part of the plan, or I didn't really see it on there.
That was one of the future phases that maybe kind of, yeah. So, and the idea with that, just to kind of everyone, was that low level kind of wayfinding lighting. We will be including lighting for the parking lot, obviously, and security lighting for the site. But the idea of solar lighting bollards, that would be kind of a future improvement.
I have another question. Should we expect any disruption to our services like Pico or Aqua during any of this? No?
No.
Okay, I was just wondering. We shouldn't expect it. Okay. Nothing planned. Okay, thank you.
And I'm sure Katie will work with everybody to kind of send updates, you know, once the project gets bid and when construction is kind of starting. So we'll definitely keep you abreast if that's anticipated, but typically it wouldn't be a concern.
I would like to say this is not the last meeting. I'm sure we'll have several meetings as this goes along, as different parts of it occur, where you'll be able to come out and, you know, continue to ask questions. There are questions you haven't even thought of yet.
So as we close this portion of the meeting, I'd ask you to reach out to Kate Kohler, the Director of Parks and Recreation, provide your address and email address. And Kate has said she's going to meet with the neighbors out there to talk about specific backyards and what types of plantings you may want in your backyard. Do you want to be screened so you can't look into the park, or would you prefer some other type of buffering so you can look into the park? So Kate will be in touch with you. Please reach out to her. If there's no more comments, we're going to continue with this meeting. If you don't want to stay for the rest of the evening, we'll give you a minute or two to exit here, and then we'll resume the meeting. Is that okay, Commissioner?
I just want to thank you all, neighbors, too, for your input and for coming out tonight.
See who really wants it. All right, moving on. Can I get approval of the minutes for April 21st, 2025? Anyone? Motion to approve the minutes.
No problem with me on that one. The minutes are fine.
Okay, minutes are approved. Acceptance and approval of the following monthly reports for Parks and Rec.
You want to do public comments
Sorry.
on agenda items?
Public comments, non-agenda items only. Anyone have any public comments? Okay.
Again, my name's Corey Schmidt, 203 in. I'm coming because I'm kind of representing Willow Grove Bible Church. Currently, this coming weekend, we're doing a flea market up there in the hill. And we had approached Parks and Rec, Kate, about putting a banner up on the corner of Mason's Mill and Byberry, which he gave us the okay. And we were told to go to see Paul at Code, and he would approve us. Well, he would, look at the application. And my brother Carl Molt went there, and he was denied. And we were just wondering why, because the reason he gave us was it has nothing to do with Mason's Mill Park, and and there's no reason to put a banner up there. We can't put any kind of a sign up there. Now I look at that and say, well, 8-9 years ago, our church did a coffee house, and Kim Ruby from the coffee house, our church, had approached Pat Stasio about putting a coffee house sign on the corner, which we did. Granted, that was a woods at the time, and it wasn't clean cut like it is now, but we were able to. But neither here or there. I mean, Bryn Athens put signs there. June Fate has a sign there. I mean, they're not doing anything at the park for June Fate, but a grant you, June Fate is part of Upper Moreland, and we're a team player. That's the way I look at it. Like I said, we're a nonprofit organization. We're doing we're doing something that we're donating our money to after the flea market is done. And I was just curious. We were curious why we weren't allowed to put a banner up, And Paul denied us for that reason. He said that the reason couldn't put it up because it has nothing to do with Mason's Mill Park. And I look at it as being it's a part of Upper Moreland. Willow Grove Bible Church is part of Upper Moreland, across from the new park to be, and we're, like I said, we try to be a team player, and I'm just want to bring that to your attention. Thank you for your time.
All right. Do you know about it, right? I would assume. I have no objection to it, but I don't know what the
Policy's changed in the last few years because the township was inundated with requests to put signs up at Mason's Mill Park and on Turwood Park and others. And the policy has since changed that it has to be a township event or a township partnered sponsored event. So I'll definitely look into this, and I can get back to Corey, or Kate can get back to Corey and provide more information.
Okay, great. All right. Okay, so acceptance and approval of the following monthly reports.
I'll be really quick.
Thanks.
Just want to say our Parks and Rec Advisory Council is meeting tomorrow. We're going to discuss the beginning stages of planning for the 250th celebration. As you have identified, Parks and Rec Advisory Council to lead that charge. We spoke with KSA for possible funding for the celebration, hoping that moves forward. Our seasonal employment, all positions are filled at this time. And for our Parks Maintenance Division, our focus this month was spring planting. We planted 15 new trees at Mason's Mill Park. And I want to highlight on Wednesday, May 14th, we are having our Habitat Heroes event at Pileggi Park. It's going to be focusing on Birdtown. We're partnering with the EAC to discuss Birdtown and what it means. And we'll have the opportunity to decorate birdhouses that were constructed by Eagle Scout. And then we will put them up in our parks and hopefully create a nice bird habitat. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have from the monthly report.
I have none. Anyone?
I'm good.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, next we have the Library Board of Trustees report.
Good evening. My name is Jim Silverman. I think you all probably know that. I've been a resident of the township for 28 years and have been a member of the Board of Trustees at the library for the past 6 years. And first of all, I'd like to thank the commissioners for their continuing support of the library. It's become very clear to me over the last couple of years that the library is so much more than borrowing books. It really is a center for learning, from preschool kids to senior citizens. And we have programs to support all age groups, from story time for the kids to classes for older adults and, again, senior citizens. One quick point, because the schedule changed for tonight's meeting, this meeting is taking place before our May Board of Trustees meetings. So you will have the complete report from the library's Board of Trustees in your June books, but you don't have them tonight. And that's simply because of the schedule change. Excuse me. I just wanted to go over a couple of events that have been going on at the library. We had an AARP program. They had tax aid volunteers at the library to help seniors with their taxes, and approximately 250 low to moderate income senior citizens participated in the event, and that was regarding both federal, state, and local tax returns, and we thought that was really successful. And again, I'll go back to my original point, library is so much more than borrowing books. We really are here to serve the community and help the community learn. There will be a volunteer fair for the local community organizations in conjunction with the Lions Club's Cool Car Show on Saturday, June 14th, 4 to 8 p.m. at the Upper Moreland Middle School. Community members who are interested in giving back to their community can learn about the many volunteers available in the community and at the library. Community organizations interested in recruiting volunteers will be able to set up recruitment tables in the cafeteria. If you know of any organizations that would like to participate, please contact the library so we can make the proper arrangements. And lastly, we want to thank the Lions Club for making this event possible. And one other point, we've been very fortunate so far this year to add some additional online resources to the library. One of them is consumers reports. So individuals can go into the library's website, use their library card number to check out consumers reports, read the latest reviews, even take advantage of their car buying service. And I can speak to that personally. I bought a car earlier this spring and was able to use the Consumer Reports car buying service and save myself quite a bit of money doing that. And again, that's available to anybody in the community who has a library card. Just click on the Consumer Reports button on our webpage, put in your library card, and you'll be able to access Consumers Reports as if you were an individual member. We have one new service that we just came online called Jobs Now. Jobs Now provides templates, tips, and resources to help people with all aspects of their job search. In addition, Job Now provides live help with resume, interview skills, and the job coach daily between 2 p.m. and 11 p.m. This service is free for all Upper Moreland residents. Just check it out on the library's website. One last thing I wanted to mention to you all. The Board of Trustees is, I'm not going to say always because that's not really the case, but we frequently are looking for new members to join the Board of Trustees. People leave the board for a number of reasons. They move, or in some cases, they term out. Trustees can serve 2 3-year terms, and then they're asked to leave the board, which would create an opening. There is an application on the library's website. If you could encourage your constituents to check that out, and if they're interested in helping serve and run the library, please fill out the application and process it Um,
Are there any current openings?
I'm sorry?
Mic was off. Any current openings or openings
No
coming up?
current openings. There'll probably be one opening later this year of somebody who will be term limiting out. But we had 3 openings last year, and I can only think of one possible opening coming up later this year. So, but to use a baseball metaphor, it's always good to have somebody in the bullpen.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
If you can let your constituents know about that, that would be great.
Will do.
And I don't know if you have any questions, I'll be glad to entertain them, and if I can't answer your questions,
I have no questions.
Kathy? Oh, there you are. Kathy, I'll certainly be able to answer any questions you may have.
I have no questions. Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I'm all set. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your report. There's no old business, new business, DCED grant application, big stage events for $157,000.
So I'd like your consideration, Commissioners, for the township to apply for a DCED grant for big stage events in the amount of $157,000 for the 250th celebration. This is a no-match grant, and in hopes to get at least a percentage of that fee to offset some costs for this celebration.
I'd like to move it forward.
Well, wait a minute. What is this group?
So the steering committee has not been specifically identified yet, again, because this meeting was moved up a week. We have our Parks and Rec Advisory Council meeting tomorrow, where we will discuss certain executive board positions and a more realistic agenda for the celebration, the 250th celebration.
But I'm talking about the money grant.
What was your question, Commissioner?
Well, it's $157,000 you're asking for.
Yes.
And for what? From who?
From DCED, and this was for a very preliminary budget that I developed based on a program to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the nation over the span of 3 days in 2026.
The president of the Board of Commissioners appointed the Parks and Recreation Council as a steering
I
committee.
understand that. But you mentioned this a specific organization, doesn't it? Something backstages?
Oh, that's just the name. I'm sorry, Kate. That's just they call it the big stage events. That DCD's grant, we're applying for something that qualifies under a big stage event. It's not a company or anything like that. It's just
The type of grant,
Gotcha.
because it's going to be a big stage event.
I get it. I just thought you were hiring a company already, that's all.
No.
Okay. I'm
I'd
in
like to
favor.
move it forward. Full board consideration in June.
I would as well.
Thank you.
Okay, there's no other items. Any commissioner comments this time? Okay, we're adjourned.